All right, it is now time to talk more about Doctor Who. It's the bottom line. Melissa's signed a petition to get us to change it back to the Terrible Twos. Mike has signed it, but I have not signed off yet. So we're sticking with the bottom line for now.
What are you waiting for, Ryan? Come on.
Mike might get his wish. You guys might get your wish.
I signed it. And I said, the bottom line, Michael, the bottom line. And then I underlined it 3 times
with 3 bottom lines.
Drive it home. 1, 2, 3 bottom lines.
So the point is, this is how we end the show with what could be the most important part, which is the final 2 questions that really encapsulate how we felt about this episode. The first question is, Michael Kenyon Rosenberg, on a scale of 1 to 10 doctors, what would you give this first episode?
I think we're on the 14th or 15th, maybe more. I think there's like some other variants in there.
Yeah, too, but if there were 10 of scale of 1 to 10, all right, 1 to 10 ducks.
All right. William Hartnell to David Tennant. Okay.
What would you give an unearthly child, part 1 or whatever the heck this thing was?
I'm trying to remember the guy's name, but I'll just say I'll give it a 7, solid 7. Especially because I think for its time, it was pretty interesting stuff. If I just imagine myself, if I'm like a 10-year-old UK kid, British kid at home, sitting at home, and I turn on the telly and I see this Doctor Who come on, and I'm like, what is this lot? And then like I see like they're talking about space travel and that they're aliens, and then this TARDIS is bigger on the inside, and then they travel to a different time or space. I'm like, what is this then? I would be completely I would be knackered. I would just be blown away by this if I was just a little kid in Britain when this came out. And so and you look at the subsequent series. I mean, I think there's like something like I looked on IMDb, like 26 seasons or something of this show. 26. What show goes 26 seasons besides
Star Trek.
The Simpsons? Obviously, yeah, Star Trek, Simpsons. Yeah, but like Star Trek and The Simpsons are like 2 like iconic things, and so is Doctor Who. So I think, yeah, I would say solid 7 for me.
All right, Melissa,
bollocks.
Take out your critic's hat. This is it. Scale of 1 to 10. What would you give this first episode?
First of all, I have to say knackered means tired. So
I would be completely knackered after watching this. I would be completely blown away.
But I am going to, and I'm grading on a curve for the time and the history lesson that was fascinating to me and what it contributed to the history of science fiction. So I'm giving it an 8. Because there were many interesting things about this that I know Ryan can't understand right now.
No, I understand. You gave it an 8. Michael gave it a 7. Go on.
No, because 1, it was kind of revolutionary for its time. If I'm I just put myself in the shoes of somebody of the time watching this and imagining the possibilities of what otherworldly things are possible. The possibility of science and girls being good at science, that, you know, it's opening of certain doors, if you will, in my opinion. And I think that the storytelling wasn't terrible. I got relationship between the 2 teachers in the very first few lines. I got where these people are coming from. And I got mystery and a curiosity to find out, what is this doctor all about and who are these people all about? So that's why I give it an 8, because of all of the questions it arises and the imagination and curiosity it sparks. So
Yeah.
All
Cool.
right, Ryan, pressure's on.
I'm pretty close to where you guys are too. Just like 3 or 4 points lower. But it's the same ballpark, I'm looking at about a 4 was my initial impression. I wanted to drop it down to a 3 or 3.5. But I like how short it was. So that, that's the thing. If something is slow, at least make it short. Because then you're like, oh, well, not much happened, but at least not much happened in a short amount of time rather than in a long amount of time. Because really, I feel like they could have started at the 15-minute mark and we wouldn't have missed anything, right? I mean, they could have just been like 2 teachers saying, hey, they could have started at the stakeout and they say, hey, so are you sure we should be doing a stakeout? Well, aren't you curious about our student? I sure am. She's weird, isn't she? Yep. And then boom. And then they do this stuff. And then you have 15 more minutes to actually go on an adventure and see. And the first episode is you actually see what Doctor Who's actually about. But this first episode, I got nothing about what Doctor Who's about. I got exposition. I found out that they're aliens. I didn't know that, Anyway, I give it a 4. I didn't hate it. I'd say I liked it better than I thought I would. So that's something. It smells like cookies. Someone's baking cookies. So scale of 1 to 10, that's what we gave it. Now, the big question is, Michael Kenyon Rosenberg, I know this is a tough one for you, but for the purposes of this podcast, we had to watch the first episode of Doctor Who's first season in 1963. Now that the podcast is relatively over and you are free to move about the internet, would you, of your own volition, watch the second episode?
I would. Yeah. I would. I have before, and actually kind of watching it again has kind of like jump-started my interest in Doctor Who again. And I kind of, there's something about me, like, we had to sign up for this BritBox thing so that we could watch this on Amazon. There's like a free 7-day trial. And I don't know, I'm thinking about maybe just keeping it and just watching Doctor Who's. And
I thought you were sorry. I just thought you were going to say, I'm thinking about for the next week while I have my week trial to watch this little thing. But you're like, I might just, who knows? Who knows what might happen?
So one thing is, like, if I'm doing something kind of mindless at work, like sometimes I just have like this mindless work that I need to just kind of just slog through. I'll kind of I'll put on like a little TV episode and I'll just kind of like half pay attention to it while I'm doing my work. And this might be I mean, it's like Melissa was saying, it's kind of coming from radio where they're talking all the time and telling you something. So that's actually good to, I could probably watch that while I'm working. Right. So maybe I will keep it and just keep watching it. So keep listening to it. So
see, that's how they get you. They say, just try this free trial. What's the big whoop? All right, Melissa, be honest. Would you watch the second episode?
Yes, and I did.
Nice.
Because
on purpose?
You want to know what's going to happen.
You fell asleep and it kept playing.
No, I did on purpose. And because I wanted to know where they had landed.
Right.
The Cave of Skulls, right? That's kind of enticing right there.
Yeah, and it kind of reminded me of each episode is like a chapter in a book. So it's like books on tape. So, but with pictures. So
moving pictures.
Yeah, moving pictures. So I would, and I did. And it's
Did you
fun.
watch any more than just the second episode, or
Mhm.
just yeah?
Yeah, because like you said, that it's kind of a chunk. Each story is its own thing. So
Did you watch the whole first story, or
Mhm.
was it 6 episodes? Was I right, or
I think it was 4.
4? Okay.
But yeah, interesting. It's interesting to see what people from this early 60s thought of life and what comes before and what comes after. And
Yeah.
I like to know how people tick, what
Yeah.
makes them think, and where their imaginations go. So
It is interesting to see what people used to think was acceptable television. So say it with me. I would not watch the next episode.
What?
I know. But
Shock
I will
and
say, I will say
But you
that
didn't
I'm
get any shit in your mouth, though. You're saying, though,
no,
right?
that I am impressed that this is basically serialized television,
Mhm.
30, 40 years ahead of its time. So it gets points for that. I just wish that the episode was good. Like, I like that it has the overarching, I mean, that's serialized television. That's really cool. I think that's great. I bumped it up for that reason. But again, I just wish that there was more to this standalone, this one episode. There was hardly anything in it, and they just ended with a little mystery that makes you say, oh, I got to see what's next. And so many shows are doing that nowadays. It's impressive that they did that 50 years ago.
60 almost.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so I was a little curious. I was like, oh, they're going to end it here. So basically they just teased us. They made us sit through stuff. And then anyway, so no, I would
Yeah,
not
but back
go.
then there was like 2 channels to choose
Right.
from. It was like this or news.
It was BBC
Well-
One or off.
Well, even in the 80s, there were like 3 channels. So
Right.
Mhm. Okay. So that wraps up
It
this
was like
edition
either this or listen to the radio. So
of Watch the First. And remember, if you'd like us to watch the
Doctor
first
Who,
episode of
Doctor
a
Who
series,
things.
no, then
William
just say
Hartnell.
watch the first MacGyver or WTF Hawaii 5-0 or WTF
Or the reboots of either of those 2 shows too.
or WTF WWE SmackDown. Oh, or Melissa, no.
Ugh.
Ugh. Anyway, I think that's about it, right, Michael?
Yeah, almost.
Make sure to like and subscribe and pass this along with your friends. And do make your suggestions. Make them in the comments below, more so than in the chat, so that they stay there forever. And we can just go and check it out a little later.
Oh,
So-
give us a like if you haven't already, please.
Yeah.
Please.
Also find us on social media. Our social media is down there. You can check that out and give us a like and a follow there.
Facebook, Instagram.
So what I'm trying to
Twitter.
say is that this podcast was easy to get through.
This podcast was mysterious.
This podcast had some expectations met.
Okay. Very good. So always remember, guys, to be our friends and make your suggestions. Give us your likes and your comments. And remember what Mr. Michael Kenyon Rosenberg always likes to say.
Don't forget to register to be an organ donor.
He does always say that.
That's what that's what I always say. That's my new thing that I always say. Yeah.
It's a good one. See you next time.